Welcome to Interviews with Innocence, a podcast about spirituality, consciousness, and exploring the wisdom our children bring into this world. I believe that our very young children are our greatest teachers. After all, they're the masters of living in the present moment, bubbling in unconditional love, enjoying the messiness of life, and curious about the universe in all its dimensions. The pure essence that young children exhibit lives within all of us. My hope is that these interviews will help us discover, embrace, and connect with the sacred core of childhood that resides within each of our hearts. I am your host, Marla Hughes. Today, I am honored and so excited to have Peter Panagore on the show. Peter is an entrepreneur and ordained pastor, and he is Audible best-selling author of Heaven is Beautiful, How Dying Taught Me That Death is Just the Beginning. Peter graduated from Yale University, where he completed his master's in divinity with a focus on the practices and writings in the classics of Western mysticism. There's a lot more to Peter's bio that will be in. I feel sort of strange, like just saying those few short words, because there's so much more, but you will be able to find all of his bio in the show notes. So welcome to the program today, Peter.
Thank you, Marla. Nice to be here. Appreciate it.
It's wonderful to have you. And, you know, I love your book, Heaven is Beautiful, How Dying Taught Me That Death is Just the Beginning. So can you tell us a little bit about how that book came about?
Well, how the book came about?
Yes.
Sure. Your experience.
Oh, the experience,
okay. Because there is a story about how the book happened, too.
Yes, I know. I just remembered that. Yes. Tell us a little bit about your near-death experience.
Sure. I was an undergraduate student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and I went on national student exchange to Montana State University in Bozeman for a year to go backpacking and mountaineering in western Montana. Also to ski. I was on the National Ski Patrol, and I got a gig at the local mountain, Bridger Bowl.
Nice.
And so by springtime, I decided not to go back to Boston, where I'm from, to go home for spring break because my family was suffering the loss of my sister. She ran away and broke my mom's heart, and my dad became angry, and I was in Montana to escape them. That's why I went on exchange, so that I didn't have to be in the milieu of pain and suffering. And so when spring came around, I decided that I wasn't going to go home, and I wasn't going to go to the beach. I was going to go to the mountains, and I went to the outdoor club, found a poster on the wall from a guy named Tim, who was looking for a partner to go spend 8 days in the Canadian wilderness in British Columbia, snow caving, and then to do an ice climb across the border in Alberta in Banff Provincial Park. And so we did the wonderful backcountry ski snow cave for a few days, 7 days, and then we finished it off with an ice climb. And I've been a Boy Scout. I was, till I was 18. I'm not embarrassed to say that.
You shouldn't.
I'm not. In National Ski Patrol and backpacking and winter camping and skiing, I was an outdoor kid. And so, I'd done a fair amount of rock climbing in the East Coast. But I never done any ice climbing, and I didn't have any gear. And so Tim had all the gear he needed, and he helped me find gear. We borrowed and begged and bought what I had to on the cheap and helped me rig ourselves up in a month's time. And then we went on this trip, and we get to this climb on the last day of the day before we're going to go home. And Tim was a certified lead climber. He had just become a certified climber. And so we parked 70 yards away from the climb on the Icefields Parkway. We hiked in. There were other teams on the ice that day. We ascended until sunset, and we were the last team on and the last team off, and we were the last team on the mountain because I couldn't find 2 ice axes. I could only find 1 ice axe and an ice hammer, and the hammer is usually used to put screws in and take screws out and chip at the ice. but I climbed with it instead of just letting it dangle at my side. And so I had a hammer on one side, an axe on the other, and it slowed our climb because I could never suspend myself from the axe. I could never rest with one hand always had to grip. And so my forearms, both sides, burned out super fast. So that slowed our climb down significantly. And by the time we reached the top of the climb, as the sun was dropping and the temperature went down about 30 degrees, we watched all the other teams stomp out. The sun went down, temperature dropped, hypothermia set in, like instantly, because the temperature was 30 degrees colder, and we were wet from our climb, and we'd eaten all our food and drunk all our water. And Tim pulled up the rope as fast as he could because we wanted to get out of there, but he laid it wrong, and it became a tangled knot. I'm not sure. It was dark, no moon, starlight. We could see a little, but starlight, and the bitter ends got dropped into the rope somehow, and the whole thing became a knot, and now we were in serious trouble. And we knew this, and I knew this because we each brought skill sets to the trip, and part of my skill set was first aid and wilderness first aid and first responder. And so I'm keenly aware of what's going on. Our bodies started shaking like a cartoon, like the body's shaking to stay warm. Our jaws are clattering, and I have to take off my gloves to untangle the rope in the knot and in the dark. And we're trying to speak with clattering jaw. And we decided that we knew that we were going to die there, because within 15 minutes we're already beginning hypothermic, and we thought we are in deep trouble. And so what do? Do we try to survive the night and lean up and canoodle together up against, combine our warmth pressed up against the rock, because we didn't have any gear with us? Nobody brought sleeping bags up, our extra clothes, because it's a day climb.
Right.
And so we decided that if we did that, we were going to die for sure. And so we decided that if we were going to die for sure, we were going to at least try to die getting off the mountain. And so after we got the rope undone, and that took a couple hours, I don't really know how long it all took, because I wasn't paying attention to the passage of time and checking my watch. I was scared out of my mind. Tim and I were both super level-headed, and that was the other requirement for the trip. For him, his requirement, and for me, my requirement. My partner has to have no panic. This is because when you're in the wilderness, even if you're just snow caving in the middle of the winter and it's 50 below at night, there's no place for panic, because it'll kill you. And so we both kept our heads, which is what saved our lives, ultimately.
Wow.
And so Tim feels super responsible for this, because he approved my gear, but I also kind of talked him into it. So we're kind of in this together. So we get the rope up, we tie off to each other, we make our traverse in the dark, on the starlight, and there's 10 bazillion stars in the sky, and they're all sorts of colors, and it's so beautiful. But we were petrified. And so we get to the bottom, and we're in an area that's like the 16 by 16, say. I mean, I don't know the measurements, but it's a fairly big area, about 4 feet of snow, and the rope's up above us. And we grab the rope, and I pull it because I'm the last one down, and the rope is stuck. And then Tim comes over, and he pulls the rope with me, and the rope is frozen to the freaking tree. And we can't get it free with dangling on one side with all our weight. And so we're in snow up to our knees. And at this point, our hypothermia begins to progress into, we lose our coordination. Now we're falling, we can't walk in the snow, we're falling over, we're not really able to control our emotions. Our lips are freezing, our feet are blocks of ice. We're on this ledge, and the rope is stuck, and we're losing our capacity for cognitive function, and our lips are freezing. It's difficult to speak, to move our jaws. So our lips are freezing, and we decide not to speak to each other unless we have to, because every single motion that we make, every tumble that we make, every yank on the rope consumes the little energy that we have. And we know that there's this like proportion between the energy of the capacity to move forward with the energy we have, and our death. And and plus we're getting colder all the time. And so,
was your mind going crazy?
I was in total panic, but in my head, but in my actions, not at all. I'm like, climbing is all about focus. It's all about staying absolutely, it's very Zen, actually. It's about staying completely in the moment, where you are, not only where you are in the moment, but where you are on the cliff. You can't be above yourself or below yourself. You got to be right where you are and your next move.
Right.
And so the whole trip was all about that. So we're kind of in this meditative state of single-minded focus. And so I was stuffing down my panic while I was making myself courageous and digging deeper into my willpower in order to do all of those things, to survive,
Right.
to control my fear, and to move forward. And so we can't get the rope free. And Tim finally says, there's only one thing we can do, and that's to go back up. And so he gets up maybe 20 or 30 feet, and he yells, falling. And he comes flying down, the rope's free, and I roll out of the way, and he lands, but it's 4 feet of snow. So poof, soft landing, kind of lands half on me, but everything's okay. And my hypothermia continues to advance. And now I get hot. And when you get hot, it's a temperature misunderstanding of your brain. It thinks your body's hot. It feels like all your blood rushes into your core to save your heart and save your lungs, because you can expend your fingers, but you can't expend your heart. But I got so hot, I started to sweat. I felt like I was sweating. I don't know that I was sweating. It just felt like I was like raging hot. And so I unzip my coat, which exposes me to more cold. And in my head, I'm like, ski patrol training, stay warm, keep them warm. Yeah. They're going to want to open their coat. Don't let them. But I was like, I'm opening my coat. So I open my coat and I'm warm for the first time. And I begin to realize, because I have enough mind left, that this is it. I'm going to die. And there's nothing I can do about it. That's it. I'm stuck here. And so I remember looking off and seeing the beauty of the mountain across the way and the ice flowing down and the beautiful stars. And this peace settled over me. I'm still pulling on the rope, but this peace settles over me. And I start thinking about my parents. I start thinking about my sisters and my brother. And I start thinking about God. And I realize I'm okay to die. I'm all right. I can die. And then I began to fall asleep. And I would fall asleep and collapse onto the rock. And I would like fall asleep, lose consciousness, fall to the rock, smack the rock, wake up, and stand back up again and repeat this process. And then
oh my God,
I stand up, and I am terrified. Okay, I've been terrified all night, and I've been driving my will. And now I've accepted my circumstances, and I stand back up this one time. And now I have the last thing that happens in hypothermia, which is you get tunnel vision, and my vision becomes a tunnel vision, like a fade to black on a stage spotlight, and this thing just starts closing and closing and closing and closing. And I'm like, what is this? I'd never seen such a thing in my life. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm looking around. I kind of glance at Tim, and I glance back, and it goes black. And I think, oh, it's black. And I think, why am I still conscious? I'm not asleep. Why? I can't see. I don't feel like I'm standing. I haven't collapsed. I don't understand what's going on. And so I'm in this confused state, trying to figure out what was going on to me. And then my vision expanded. Like this, I could suddenly, like a veil had lifted, and there was this incredibly distant darkness that filled my entire vision. But it wasn't a darkness like I couldn't, like in a dark room that you can't see your hand in front of your face. It was darkness like I could see all the way to the end of it, or what I thought was the end of it. And way far in the distance was like a pinprick of light. And this pinprick of light came rushing at me at faster than the speed of light from this incredible distance. And it communicated to me without language, I'm taking you. And I said, in my mind, I said, I don't know where I am or what's going on, but you're not taking me. And I put up.
And you were totally mindful.
I was completely aware of what's going on.
Aware.
I didn't understand what was going on.
Yes.
But I was aware.
You're totally aware.
Totally aware.
Yes.
And so I took all my willpower that I dug all night long, this great amount of drive, space for drive that I still have. That has never gone away. That's still got that. And so I dig way down in the bottom of that, and I push it up like I'm willing a wall against this thing. And it as it rushes toward me, it becomes more of a contained, it gets bigger, but it becomes more localized. and it just communicates. And from the time I saw it to the time it came was the length of it, the time it takes me to say, I'm taking you. And it was just like, boom. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, pop, out I go. I just plucked. And up to the being plucked, I was fierce. And then contentment. And then comfort. And then, this is comfortable. And whew, carried in this wide expanse, became stayed wide, but it also became tunnel. And I was swept up by this intelligence, this all-powerful intelligence. And it would be like getting caught in a river of comfort, but over which I had no control. I'm rushing down this river, and I'm content, but I can't change anything. And the next thing I know, I'm popped into this infinite, eternal darkness that's illuminated. And it's a place of contradiction and paradox and timelessness. And everything I tell the story as if it's a sequence, but there's no sequence because it's all time and no time. And I am popped out into this thing, and the intelligence, this localized entity, is gone, but I'm in the middle of this vast, bigger than the universe expanse of contentment. I am now, and I sense myself no longer having any DNA, no body, no bones, no brain. I am this expanded orb. It was like I had this collapsed balloon, and suddenly I'm blown up to my true size, and now I'm my true size. And my first understanding is this is me. This is me. How did I not know?
It's always been me.
It's always been me. This is what I am. Yeah. I've never been that other thing. And now I don't, all of my senses are all integrated. So my thinking and my brain and my eyes and my nose and my ears and my touch, it's all one thing. I can see in every direction at once. And I can see, I can even see myself sort of from the outside and the inside simultaneously. So I have this sense of, but I'm still contained inside this consciousness is me. But I can also sort of see this thing, and then like a portal opens in front of me, like a gigantic doorway or a gateway, and I say it's in front of me, but I didn't have a front.
Yes.
Every side of me was the front, and but this thing opens up, and there's like this long arcing tunnel that's defined like a hallway that goes way far away in this, like the curvature of the earth, like this long arcing distance, but I can see to the end of it, and or what I think is the end of it. And over the gateway is this shimmering, transparent, translucent flow that I can see through, and also seems that I can't see through. And so I reach with myself and I touch this entry, and it's all living, capital A, capital L. It's all life. It's all oneness of being. It's love and beauty and joy. It's life itself, and it flows into me and infills me. And I have all these things happen at once. I hear my name called, which isn't Peter. It's like I hear that my soul name. I know it's my soul name. It has no language, no way to express this. I see the long, eternal, everlasting tale of my soul, the length of my soul, and I see the moment of my creation being called into being as like an individuated photon of light from a much greater mass of light, and I hear my name being called in my creation, which is timeless, and I understand that I am creature, and this is creator, and that I am utterly and completely known, and there is nothing about me unknown. And I see like Peter as this micron thin sheathing on the very top, and I see other sheathings bifurcating my soul, but I can't see what they are or where they are, but I know that they are like this other thing that seems I still have some self-identity with, but I am this other, I am this soul. And then as back to my self-identity, I see every pain that Peter has ever given away in his entire life.
Yes.
All of the suffering I had ever caused to everybody from their point of view, whether I intended to cause them pain, which there was plenty of that, and plenty of unintended pain. And I felt it from their perspective. I saw what had happened to them. I saw what I did to them from their point of view, and I felt their pain. And it turned out that the pain that I gave them was 10,000 times greater than the pain that I thought that I gave them, and that I suffered their 10,000 times pain. So I'm actually in the pain that I gave them, juxtaposed to my rationalizations and reasons for causing them that pain. And I judged myself guilty and meanwhile, and shameful. And so I was shown this about myself. I self-judged. I was not judged.
Yes.
I was self-judged, but it was in comparison and relationship in two ways. It was in relationship to the ultimate purity of divine eternal love. And so in relationship to that immensity, I was ashamed of that I had caused pain. When it's kind of like when your dad says to you, "You disappointed me."
Right,
You know,
right,
totally.
right. I think everybody can relate to that.
And so I was totally crushed, not because of what I had done, because I had this other perspective. I could see all humanity's sins was the same as mine. And the voice in terms of that if you live, you cause pain. You cannot be a human being and not cause pain. It's
part of the human condition.
It's the human condition. And so there's a great equality among us for that in comparison to the infinity of the purity of being. And so all of us, so, the Christians, they say you all fall short of the love of God. Well, we fall short of the perfection, but not of the love. And so I understood that there was no scale of sin, that there's nobody worse than others.
So the deep, profound sadness, of course, it was seeing the pain that you had caused, but even more so, since that was kind of equalized, because that is part of the human condition, what the profound sadness was that you had disappointed.
Yeah, the guilt. Divine. It was guilt.
Yes.
I was I am shameful. I'm full of shame, and I am guilty. And but the voice, there's this voice speaking to me, and this voice is this entire infinity. All of this, the voice is the infinity, but it also seems to be hyper localized, and I can't.
Right.
I can see everything, but I can't see that origin of where it's speaking from. And it's speaking outside of me and inside of me, and it's saying, I love you, I made you, I called you into being, I'm creator, you are creature, I made you like this, I've known everything about you, I forgive you, I love you, welcome to my love, I love you. And I accepted the love. And it seemed to me, a couple of things in reflection, that the love that I carried things with me. I carried all the pain I gave away, but I also carried all the love I'd given away in my life and all the love that was given to me. And that seemed to be what enabled me to recognize the love of the divine, even though I was in what Catherine of Genoa calls the purgative fire of divine love. I was cleansed of all the things I didn't need. And when I was forgiven, I was infilled then to this expansion of my capacity, of this combination of I was in the unity of the oneness of being. And it was joy and bliss and love and wholeness and healing and understanding and wisdom and knowledge, adoration, love, paradise. The list, I could keep going. But all these things, we fragment all these things here, but they were all one thing. And I've summarized it in two words here. One is beauty, and the other, more operatively and importantly, is love. And so all of these components were all one livingness. And I was infilled with this bliss and adoration and welcome. And I said, telepathically, no language, because I didn't have any brain. So there's no conversation. It's all instant communication.
Just knowing, yes.
And I said, am I dead? And the voice said, yes, you're dead. And I said, but I haven't gone through the door yet. And the voice said, but you're welcome. Come. It's time. Come home. And I said, but my parents are suffering. And if I go, they're going to lose another child. And my mom's already broken. And what's going to happen? And in an instant, I was swept into like the edge of the universe, at the edge of heaven. And I was able to look down onto the earth, which seemed like a hologram to me. And I could see every one of the 7 billion people, every one of them, like individuated. Like I could see their hair and their eyes and watch them, what they were doing all at once in this one moment of time. And everything was covered with this veil. And the voice said to me, and I could see my parents' faces in particular. And the voice said to me, in the way that you now know that I love you and that I have always loved you, I love everyone that way. And that the love that I felt, it was so profound that word doesn't even come close. It's like all of the love of all of the creatures who've ever lived on earth, all combined into one place, multiplied by a septillion. It's expansive and massive and healing and whole and welcoming and saving. And
that's so beautiful.
I love
you describe it so well, because I've interviewed some other people who've had near-death experiences, and it's ineffable.
It's
so hard to explain, but you are doing a fantastic job by it. I mean, I can just visualize and just, I don't know, it's just really touching my heart. Did you see any other beings while you were in that state?
No, I saw, people ask me that, did you see your auntie or somebody? And no, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't. I was in the presence of all love there is.
Yes,
I lacked nothing.
So you saw your parents.
I saw my parents, and I saw that I felt like I was the favorite child. I felt like I was the particularly loved one, but I understood that everyone was the particularly loved one. Everyone was beloved, and that everyone will be well when they leave Earth, and that nobody can see through the veil. It thins here and there, but nobody could see what I could see, the totality of the oneness of love, and for every single known human being, and everyone was being welcomed home in the end. And I saw my parents' faces. I could see their current suffering, and I also could see the length of their life to come without me and their suffering. And so I said, God said, so your parents are going to be well. When they die, when their timeline dies, I saw their timeline without me because it was shown to me. When their timeline ends, this is what they will see. They will be in the place of healing and belovedness, as if their suffering never existed, as if there was no suffering, all forgotten, undone.
I think this is a great place to end our interview for today. However, Peter will be back next week to continue his fascinating story. Hope to see you then. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you want to learn more about the show, you can find us at interviewswithinnocence.com and on Facebook or Instagram at Interviews with Innocence. Please write me a message, tell me what you liked, and let me know what else you would like to hear. I would love to hear from you. And if you liked what you heard, please leave us an iTunes rating and review. It helps other listeners find the show. Thank you.